Hello everyone and welcome to the FinTech Times. My name is Tyler. I'm here at the PAY360 event today in London, and right now I'm joined by Dave. Dave, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And it's genuinely exciting to be out actually talking to people again. So
yes,
fantastic is the answer.
Everybody's really enjoyed the face-to-face contact. It's quite refreshing.
It
isn't
is.
it?
It's great.
Yeah, and why don't you tell us a bit more about who you are and what company you represent?
Sure. So I'm here. I'm global ambassador for Consult Hyperion. Consult Hyperion is a specialist consultancy in the electronic transactions field. So we work for the big schemes and the big banks and basically big companies that want to exploit the new technologies around transactions, which could be anything from transit operators to supermarkets to anyone really.
Well, that sounds really interesting. I mean, when we're talking about new technologies, it's a real focus of this event today. And I think, coming off the back of the pandemic, it's something that's even more poignant. And we saw paytech really come forward during the pandemic to facilitate people's needs in lots of different ways. I mean, how do you think the pandemic has shaped paytech innovation in the last year?
Well, look, I mean, the easy answer and obvious answer is, and I'm sure everybody would tell you the same thing, is that it kind of didn't change the industry direction. What it did was accelerate it gave us a push downhill. So we were going to contactless and barcodes and in-app and all this sort of stuff, but the pandemic really accelerated it. And actually, I think we should feel good about that because we helped people to transact contactlessly and all this sort of thing. So, but at the same time, you began to see new business models strengthening. And there are things like buy now, pay later, a lot of the in-app and super app stuff, which also kind of point towards the future they've been talking about this morning, which is the data around payments has become, why is it that Klarna is so amazing to the merchants? It's just a way of paying. Well, it's not just a way of paying. It's a way of bringing additional customers and collecting additional data. So, if we'd have been discussing this 20 years ago, our only business models would have been transaction fees. And now we're building different business models, which are based on data and interactions around that data.
It's really interesting that you mentioned data because its use has become so prevalent and so it's so crucial to building really customized solutions. And I think you're absolutely right in saying that what we're seeing now is nothing new. It was just something that's been sort of strengthened and pushed forward by the pandemic. You mentioned a little bit about Klarna, a little bit about buy now, pay later. They're of course becoming more widespread and more popular for different reasons. I was just wondering, are there any new payment models that you've seen arise, and if so, what are your favorite ones?
Well, I mean, if you're talking more sort of speculatively looking forward, of course, there are two areas to think about, and one of those is the evolution of the infrastructure. So faster payments, the arrival of the new payment architecture, ISO 20022, data-rich account-to-account payments, and the layers that will sit on top of that, the request to pay and variable recurring payments. Those aren't as exciting to people, but if you're talking about volume and the future, I think request to pay in particular, I think is a really big deal. Then of course you've got the stuff going on outside the system. You've got the people who are playing around with cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance and this sort of stuff. And even if you're skeptical about some of the aspects of that, which I am, there's no denying that the technology evolution in that space is rapid, and I'm sure will be a lot of that technology we will be using in coming years. Interestingly, I think maybe not cryptocurrency for payments, but actually a lot of the adjacencies, things like tokens and digital identity and those kind of things. Yeah, those guys are really pushing ahead with that stuff in a way that possibly, the incumbents haven't.
Yes, I think they've done so much to move themselves forward, and it'll really. I think now we're really in a space where different payment models are sort of neck and neck in some respect, and they can be completely irrelevant from each other. So finding out in which direction they're going to move and how they're going to transform is going to be really, really interesting to see. I mean, we talk a lot about paytech and how it works within fintech, and it seems to be the most likely sort of application of the two, right? But I was wondering, from your perspective, how could paytech work and accommodate payments outside of fintech?
Well, look, I think if you talk to people from what we might broadly call the embedded finance world, the world of open banking and API and that kind of thing, they try and echo the whole, remember there's that whole thing about how software is eating the world, and they'll do the same, like, fintech is eating the world. For an awful lot of people, their basic requirement isn't sophisticated financial services, it's just payments. Making payments easy and convenient and safe and secure, but part of the experience. The idea that I do, like we're sorting out some, I don't know, I can't imagine what it would be, but let's imagine we're going to a concert together and we're sorting it out on Facebook. It seems kind of weirdly old-fashioned that we then have to go out of Facebook and go into the bank app, and then I've got to email you to get your bank details so I can type them in, and you know what I mean? Like, really, I should be in Facebook saying, like, well, here's the tenner I owe you. So and I'm sure other people are thinking up some more amazing things. So I broadly think that the innovation that will come around that embedded payment stuff will take it into all sorts of areas, because what customers want is the experience, the brand and what they're doing. We sort of want the payments to kind of vanish in a strange way, because we want them just to be a seamless part of the experience. So yeah, I think there's lots of cool stuff going on there.
And it's true, it's so applicable to everything, and it's really interesting how you say the transactions should almost disappear. I really like that comment you made, and I think it'll be very interesting to see where it goes and how it's being made more applicable. We've seen a lot of work inside like charities, people fundraising for the current crisis in Ukraine, and especially within different interfaces. You mentioned Facebook. It is a very interesting space, but we will have to we'll have to come back and see if those words ring true, and I hope they do.
I'm sure it'll be a bigger part of the show next year.
Definitely. Well, it was lovely to speak to you today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thanks for having me. It's a great event.
It's great. Thank you.